One of the hopeful things that I've discovered is that nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies.
Here is another example of pay for play. In 2009, a company called Ericsson came under U.S. pressure for selling telecom equipment to several oppressive governments, including Sudan, Syria, and Iran. Some of these regimes use those technologies to monitor and control their own people. In June 2011, Hillary Clinton's State Department began adding goods and services to a list that might be covered under expanded sanctions on Iran and other state sponsors of terrorism. During that time, Ericsson sponsored a speech by Bill Clinton, paying him $750,000, his highest paying speech. In April 2012, the Obama administration issued an executive order imposing sanctions on telecom sales to Iran and Syria, but those sanctions did not cover Ericsson's work in Iran. A Trump administration will end the government corruption.
Friends, patriots worldwide, welcome to episode 2 of Real Journalism, as I like to call this series. It's going to be I don't know how many parts I will include in the series. In the previous episode, we spoke about the manipulation of public opinion and how really, everything comes down to public perception or public opinion. What the population can, be fooled into thinking is true. That's sort of what the real power players have to deal with. If they can keep us, chasing an illusion, that's great for them. And if many of us are unaware, largely, about the fact that there is a global criminal network, as many like to refer to as the deep state, well then that's great for them. If they are acting without being seen, if that's their goal, if that's their family motto, perhaps. Speaking of family mottos and acting without being seen, in Latin, that's esse non vedere, acting without being seen. There's a Swedish family, quite influential throughout history. The last couple of centuries, they've been quite influential. Not only when it comes to Sweden, but actually internationally as well. And it all ties into what I'm about to talk about today. There's a company called Ericsson, which Donald John Trump said in 2016, in June of 2016, he went out and said that. And he spoke about Bill Clinton, his highest paying speech, that was a bribe, right? Pay for play. And how essentially this Swedish telecommunications company, they were supposed to police themselves, according to Hillary Clinton. But they've used this technology to monitor and control their own citizens. How could that happen, you may ask? Well, they're actually at the bottom of everything making this possible. Unlike, perhaps you've been told that, or you've been led to believe that, it's Microsoft or Google or IBM or Amazon, the big tech companies. They have all the power. That's not actually the case at all, because we have to think about the transmission sets, not really the companies. Because there is a company called Ericsson, and all these other companies that are of less importance, actually, Microsoft, IBM, Google, Apple, they all pay licensing fees to Ericsson. So essentially, they rent their place on Ericsson's internet. But there are plenty of things to cover when it comes to this specific topic. I will bring out the first image, or the first part of the presentation, perhaps you could call it, when it comes to Ericsson. There are 7 layers of IT, and we can just begin with this one. This is a screenshot from Ericsson's own website saying that, well, if you have a smartphone, that smartphone is using Ericsson technology. And if you have any IoT device, which is Internet of Things, could be your refrigerator, could be your vacuum cleaner, could be anything that's capable of connecting to a cellular network. So this company called Ericsson, they exist, they are doing business in, or perhaps rather we could say that they are controlling the underlying telecommunications infrastructure in some 184 countries. That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot of countries, right? They're at the bottom of everything, making everything possible. Without Ericsson, there would be no internet. But something interesting happened in November of 2019 in regards to this company called Ericsson, with Ericsson and the Department of Justice in America, which we can only assume, right, to be sanitized parts of the American military. Not the woke shit, but you know, they are in full control now, which is in accordance, or it's in accordance to what I presented in a previous episode. The globalists are no longer in control. Forces of good, humanity lovers, the American military are in full control of, well, whatever we want to call this great show designed to awaken all of us, or as many as could be or can be awakened. And really use that ability to think critically and for ourselves. But we've been missing a huge piece of the puzzle, which is this company called Ericsson. Recently in Swedish mainstream media, keeping track of ocean-based infrastructure is clearly a Swedish national interest. This is an article, a translation from a quote in an article that was published this week in Sweden. Keeping track of ocean-based infrastructure is clearly a Swedish national interest. Through the company Ericsson, formerly Telia carrier, the Swedish state, via the AP funds, owns the world's largest fiber optic cable network, which handles 65% of global internet traffic. Nearly all fiber cables in the Baltic Sea are Swedish-owned, including the one that connects Russia to the internet. So there was nothing random about the fact that this guy, this orange-haired man who was, character assassinated by the mainstream media. It is no coincidence that he spoke about a company called Ericsson. And I have to bring this up as well from last year. Elon Musk, who, well, we all know what role he's playing as of this moment. What is he talking about, and why is it sponsored by Ericsson? This is what he said in response to a photo with the CEO of Ericsson at that time, and Mr. Fidel. No, I meant Justin Trudeau. Sorry. So Justin Trudeau apparently wasn't too happy about the fact that Twitter, labeled CBC government-funded media. And then Elon Musk does us all a favor. Us, those of us who wish to shine light on this. What is he talking about, and why is it sponsored by Ericsson? You can quite clearly see the logo on the background behind these people. Why is it sponsored by Ericsson? In that previous episode, we played a clip where all these mainstream news anchors.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Or actors and actresses, they all say the same thing. They all use the same script. So what is Red Bee Media, and what were they formerly called? Let's ask Chat GPT while we're at it. So, to summarize, Red Bee Media is a global media services company that provides solutions for broadcasting, media management, and content delivery. They work with broadcasters, content creators, and platforms to handle tasks such as live broadcasting, video on demand, metadata services, which is, by the way, right, what Facebook, they changed their name to Meta. That's because they've been collecting metadata since they begun. Anyway, subtitles and multilingual localization. Their services ensure that media content is accessible and engaging for global audiences. They own and control upwards of 300, no, I think it's 500 TV channels, BBC. So that's perhaps why they've been using the same script. It's about controlling our minds, not anything else. But Red Bee Media was previously known as Red Bee Media Limited, formerly Ericsson Broadcast and Media Services. We can see it clear as day. Who is behind all of this? Something interesting in regards to the new Trump administration is that Kash Patel, right, he's going to be the new head of the FBI, and he has had communication with Michael Ray Corey, author of the Ericsson report, which is, by the way, something I must encourage you all to read, the Ericsson report. While you're at it, you can type ISIS and Ericsson into Google and see what you find. This company has been found guilty of sponsoring and doing business dealings with terrorists, which means that this company that is in, or has been in control of telecommunications infrastructures worldwide, they are essentially terrorists themselves. Sponsoring these terrorist groups helps them destabilize the Middle East, right? Create war, create a bunch of chaos. So these are not good people. These are not good people. What I previously said about ocean-based infrastructure, these cables, we can bring that image up right now. This is how it looks. These are all the Ericsson cables. I'm going to turn off the volume on my phone. Be right back. So what does it mean? You can have backdoors. If you own the underlying infrastructure, you can have backdoors, right? You can listen in on anybody all the time. It's their technology. It's their internet. It used to be their internet. It used to be their technology. It probably still is. A bunch of patents hidden away as well. Perhaps when it comes to this stuff. This is also an interesting image that we have from the White House, the first Trump administration, his first term. This happened on the 6th of March in 2018. A couple of people, a Swedish delegation behind Mr. Donald Trump. These two individuals, number 2 and 3 from the left, they are quite influential. And who really is P? I don't know if there were any Q posts that were sent out at that time. But I thought I would just mention that. But this is what's happening. And the internet is all dependent on Ericsson. Nothing would work without Ericsson technology. And there was this company that was formerly called Telia Carrier, which is now called Aurelian. 65% of the world's internet connection. Yeah, so something else that is very important is that in 1972 the World Bank went out and said that, well, the telecommunications infrastructure of any country is its, or equivalent to its central nervous system. And so we are thinking about this, when we're analyzing the world, most of us, many of us, up until perhaps very recently, we think about it all wrong, because we don't include a deep state, a global criminal network that is acting without being seen, that is acting behind the scenes, pulling the strings. And I think Donald Trump has said as much as well. There are people behind the scenes you've never seen. You've no idea about them. I don't think he's talking about aliens. I think it has something to do with this company called Ericsson. And by the way, while we're on the topic, 65% of internet connection goes through Sweden. And in 2009, there was and I'm actually going to ask ChatGPT to summarize this for me. Yeah, so this is a very interesting law when we look back at what has been. The FRA law, short for FRA-lagen, is a controversial Swedish legislation governing signals intelligence, conducted by the Swedish National Defense Radio Establishment. The law came into effect on January 1st, 2009, and outlines the framework for electric surveillance in Sweden. The purpose of this law, the law allows FRA to conduct surveillance on cross-border communications, i.e. internet traffic, phone calls, and other data that crosses Sweden's borders. Yeah, they've designed it so that all traffic flows through Sweden, and then we sign such a law into existence. It's sort of the opposite of GDPR that happened during Trump's first term. That law says that they have to destroy the data, unless I'm very, very mistaken, which I could be. As he said, the point of this video is not to just present something like the actors on TV who are reading off a script say, this is the truth. I'm just presenting bits and pieces so that you can make up your own mind. But, nothing would exist on the internet without this company called Ericsson. So perhaps the collaboration between Sweden and America, the American military, perhaps not a corporation, perhaps an overtaking rather, has been going on for quite some time, because we have that famous clip of Robert David Steele, the CIA guy who spoke about adrenochrome.
We have it all. All of the illicit wealth in the world has been tracked by the National Security Agency for the past 15 years. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Wall Street has stolen $100 trillion from Main Street with naked short selling. We also know that Wall Street has laundered $100 trillion in dirty money from trafficking in children and women and drugs and guns and gold. I could never tire of saying that 90% of the people in the U.S. government, the U.S. military, the U.S. intelligence community are good people trapped in a bad system. The secret intelligence community serves the deep state. It does not serve the American public. And CIA in particular has been doing torture, rendition and torture, drone assassination, regime change, helping to start wars based on lies, all because war and trafficking in humans and drugs and so forth are a profit center for Wall Street and the deep state. And once the president gets Benny into NSA and processes 100% of what we have at NSA, we have every single one of you by the balls. You cannot survive this. You have one out. The Truth and Reconciliation out is make the deal, motherfucker, or you are going to die.
He said they have it all. There's no way you can get away from this. You can't escape this. That's what he said to the criminals. So they could not have done this without a company called Ericsson if they were not on their side. The company called Ericsson was overtaken probably a long time ago. But according to Swedish law, we're allowed to store that. We're allowed to store that data. And of course, I have to mention again the new guy the Kash Patel, who's coming into the Trump administration as the FBI, new head of FBI, I think. He's had communications with Michael Ray Corey, so he knows about all of this. And he said, he was going to turn the headquarters in Virginia into a museum of the deep state, which is really what we need. A museum of the deep state sounds good, so that we know. We can look at it at a later date and never forget that we were had big time. We didn't know. It's just like, and this is a perfect segue, it's just like the monetary system. They have conditioned us to look in all the irrelevant places. Just like with the monetary system. They keep us in ignorance. If all of us knew, and that's probably what the next episode of Real Journalism is going to be about. The monetary system, how we've all been had. Because they create money out of thin air. They issue new money at a cost that can never be paid, because they never include that money. They never include the money to cover the cost of the money, which is interest, right? So, already from the instance the first loan is issued, this system is not sustainable, because you can't pay back $110 with $100. More on that in the next episode. Courtesy of fellow Swedish patriot G Strand 45 over at X. He writes some threads. He produces some content, some threads in English. You should all go and follow him. He provided some information about a company called ST Ericsson. So ST Ericsson was a multinational manufacturer of wireless products and semiconductors, supplying the mobile device manufacturers. ST Ericsson was a 50-50 joint venture of Ericsson and ST Microelectronics, established on the 3rd of February in 2009 and dissolved on 2nd August in 2013. Headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, it was a fabless company, outsourcing semiconductor manufacturing to foundry companies. Both Ericsson and ST Microelectronics appointed 4 directors to the board, with Hans Westberg, president and CEO of Ericsson, serving as the chairman of the board. We are witnessing, according to this guy, Hans Westberg, we're witnessing the 5th technological revolution, and 50 billion IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, will be connected by 2020. Big data's potential in helping secure the Internet of Things. By connecting big data and Internet of Things, you can collect information from your TV, refrigerator, car, and all things surrounding you. And I think we've been surveilled quite extensively so for longer than any of us think. I think ever since the internet. The Internet of Things is the vision of a world in which continuous internet connectivity and addressability is embedded into a growing range of human artifacts, into the natural world, and even into our smartphones, appliances, and physical persons. Every advanced networked IoT endpoint is another possible attack vector or launching point that criminals can exploit. Potentially, every time a user plugs in an IoT networked device that is infected with malware or simply open to unauthorized third-party exploitation, the vulnerabilities starts. Incorporating robust security protections in the development of IoT products, leveraging widely vetted open security standards in IoT products, and conducting independent review, auditing, and penetration testing of security in IoT products are some of the basics when using big data. But these backdoors could have been built in by the manufacturer, right? And so it goes on to say, this thread, your car is spying on you. And of course, if everything is connected to the internet, anything could have a microphone on the ship and listen in to you at all times. There was a military guy who I saw in an interview, high-ranking military officer, or I don't remember who it was. He said anyways that these surveillance devices that we carry with us all the time, you can't turn them off. And if you think about it, it's true. A couple of years ago, they disabled that feature, if we can call it a feature, but where you had the ability to move the battery. You could just take off the back cover of your phone and toss away the battery, and maybe they couldn't track that device. Maybe. You can't know for sure. But now you need some technical expertise. Since maybe 10 years ago, since since all of us essentially got smartphones, there's a smartphone in every house. You can't turn it off. You need to have some technical expertise, at least a little bit, just to know how to change the battery if you wanted to replace it yourself. Most people are not even going to do that. They're just gonna, if the battery's low or doesn't work as well as it used to, I personally would just leave it at a repair shop and have them exchange the battery if I wanted to keep that phone. So everything we can do with these surveillance devices that we carry with us voluntarily everywhere we go is we can just turn them off by holding the power button and then pressing on the screen, turn off. Then I just have to trust that it's off. But according to this military guy, they can still listen in on you. And, of course, why wouldn't they? But what happens when... Because, they know my whereabouts. They know where I've been at all times. But I'm not a criminal. You're not a criminal either, probably. Probably not a high-level criminal anyways. So, the fact that they know where you've been at all times is not that important to them. However, it's just like Robert David Steele said, they have it all, which means they have the whereabouts and the information on all the criminals, all the high-level criminals. So perhaps your car is spying on you. The collection of car data can endanger your personal integrity. New cars expose your sex and privacy. What? Your sex life might maybe expose your privacy. Beware if you travel in new cars, your sex and private life is mapped and the information can be sold on. Not only in Tesla, that personal integrity risks, where personal integrity risk being violated, the dangers are just as great in other newly manufactured cars. So apparently, according to Bloomberg here, the CIA has listed BlackBerry's car software as possible target. And we know we have smart cars as well. And so the connectivity solutions and all related business was sold. However, and this is really a sentence that we can take with us when we think about this, when we analyze the world. Control over ownership. However, control is better than owning it. So, it is what it is. By the way, guys, I wanted to add two things. First is a podcast series made by the Free People's Movement out of Sweden that talk about all of this. I think it's an 18-part series. I don't know if all the episodes are available on YouTube. I'll put a link anyways to that in the description. They cover this and many other things in quite a lot of detail, but the episodes are still short and, easy to digest. And when it comes to Facebook as well, all these big tech companies that would not exist on the internet without Ericsson technology, we have to keep in mind that the Pentagon had some project called LifeLog, where they wanted to monitor and control they wanted to surveil everybody, essentially. Wanted to know what they were all doing. But, they unfortunately just closed down that project and never did anything else with it. Except that 3 days after they closed that project, Mark Zuckerberg had the genius idea of starting Facebook. Coincidentally, it's just a coincidence, guys. Nothing was ever planned. It's just a coincidence. Just a big old coincidence. Thank you for watching. Take care.